What's going on, growers? It's James Figioni coming to you live from Jersey. Today, I'm going to show you how to easily grow sweet potatoes in containers on a patio or in a backyard. Let's go! Sweet potatoes are an incredibly productive and also attractive plant. Not to mention, the tubers are packed with nutrition. A cool thing about sweet potatoes is that you can grow them almost everywhere, from tropical climates to temperate ones. One thing though is that sweet potatoes are vines and they can take up a large area in the garden. But we can grow them in containers and save some space, plus it's fun to do and not hard at all. When it comes to growing sweet potatoes, it's not like a regular potato when planting. So a regular potato, we can just take this, put it on the ground, cover it with some soil and let it grow. But when it comes to sweet potatoes, it's different. We grow these from what are known as slips, which are essentially root sprouts emerging from the tuber. These slips grow into their own mini plants with their own foliage, their own roots. So it's like growing a new plant from the old tuber. We can start our own sweet potato slips at home by just using some sweet potatoes that we grab from the store, or we can grab some already rooted slips from a big box store like Lowe's. I grabbed these from Lowe's and I'm actually surprised with how healthy they are and how good they look. If it's your first year growing sweet potatoes though, I suggest that you order them from a nursery. The reason for this is you can get a variety that grows really well for your particular location and also produces well for your particular location. Then the following year, you can use those harvested sweet potatoes to start your own sweet potato slips. This way you know you've got some good varieties. Sweet potatoes are a warm weather crop and a light frost will damage the plants, especially when they're young. So if your sweet potatoes come in the mail before you're ready to plant them into the garden, what you could do is take a bucket, put some damp cocoa coir in there, and then store the sweet potatoes in that bucket. Just bury the roots of the slips in the cocoa coir for a few days so they don't dry out, and stick the bucket in a warm area. Ideally around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Try not to get the leaves wet while you're doing this. I am in zone 7A and I start planting my sweet potatoes in mid-May, about 3 to 4 weeks after my last expected frost date, and around the same time I transplant my cucumbers into the garden, because we really don't want a light frost or any frost hitting our young plants. It could really set them back. That's another reason I love growing them in containers, because if the temperatures want to drop on us overnight and we're expecting a frost to come, we could grab our plants in the containers and bring them inside to protect them. Although sweet potatoes will grow in a poor soil, we know that they will form better sized and more uniform tubers in a humus-rich light soil. So what I like to do is make my own soil to plant into. For my homemade soil, the base that I use is cocoa coir. I use this instead of peat moss because it's more environmentally friendly. It doesn't form together and get dense like peat moss does, and it's not acidic like peat moss. I like to use a tarp when making my soil. This makes it easier to mix all the ingredients together. My potting mix consists of 3 parts cocoa coir. I use buckets to help with my measurements. 2 parts compost. I use a mushroom compost. Half a part of vermiculite and half a part of perlite. Then I take the tarp from the corners and fold that over to help with my mixing. But when it comes down to it, to finish it off, I get on my hands and knees and do it the old style, the best way. I mix all these together until I get the consistency that I like. You can see how beautiful the soil looks when it's finished. A good structure like this is really what we're going for. Then I grab my containers. The containers that I like to use are 5-gallon buckets. One thing though is that you must make sure the buckets you're using are food safe. They should have a stamp on the side to let you know. Next, I fill my buckets up with soil to about 70% full. This way I leave enough room to add a few top dressings of soil as the season progresses, because these potatoes are going to be growing for over 100 days. They will need some food as they grow. I want to show you why I love growing my sweet potatoes in my own homemade soil. The structure is just so good. You can take a handful of the soil, compress it together with your hands as hard as you can to form a ball. It will hold together, but the slightest touch will break all the soil back up. This is evidence of great soil structure, and potatoes will love growing in this. After my buckets are filled, I add in some of my JP's Secret Stuff all-purpose fertilizer to add nutrition because I'm using a mushroom compost as my compost component in my soil mix, so the nutrition is a little bit depleted. Then I take my Covington sweet potato slips that I had sitting in coco coir, separate the slips until I had one. You can see the nice healthy roots on it. And for one bucket, I planted one slip in the middle of the bucket. Then I grabbed another bucket, added my fertilizer, mixed it up, grabbed my slips, and in this bucket, I planted 2 slips in the same bucket and then watered it in. When planting your slips, you can bury the stem up to where the new growth is coming from. Just make sure that when you plant them, you don't bury the bud where the leaves unfold from. Burying the stems is beneficial because this is a vine, so anywhere we bury the stem, new roots will grow from that. And as we know, more roots leads to more fruits. Well, I guess in this case, more roots leads to more tubers. When growing in containers, it's very important to make sure that you have some holes at the bottom. This way when you water, the extra water can drain out the bottom and it doesn't pool up at the bottom and go anaerobic. What I like to do is I use a tray like this. This way, when I water, the water can drain out the bottom and then it pools up in this tray right here so that I'm not having just a bunch of water wash out the bottom along with my fertilizer and all the nutrition. So I'll water it in and then this tray will fill up with some water, some of the excess water that drains out. Then it'll sit in here and I'll keep the bucket on top, and then the soil can suck back up the moisture that's in the tray right here until the soil is completely saturated. And this way I'm not just washing all the nutrition out of my soil and my plant isn't sitting in stagnant water. Instead, it can soak up as much moisture as it can, and then if there's excess moisture in the tray, I could just drain it out. 2 days later, the plants were starting to grow and new leaves were forming. It was also getting hot out, so I decided it would be a good idea to add some diced leaf mulch around my plants. What I do is I collect bags of leaves that people leave on the side of the road in the fall. Then, when I need mulch, I dump the leaves in my backyard, grab my lawnmower, and go over the leaves with the bag attached. This cuts up the leaves and catches them. You can see what they look like after going through the mower. Then I take the diced leaves and put them around my young sweet potatoes. This will help retain moisture, keep the weeds down, and also keep the soil cool. 14 days later, the plants were growing beautifully. The bucket with 2 vines had great color to it, as you can see here. And the bucket with 1 vine was growing well also. It just didn't look quite as good as the bucket with 2 potatoes in it. A week later, the leaves on the plants looked like they were getting a bit yellow, so I figured it would be a good day to top dress to keep the plants growing well. I pulled the leaf mulch back from around my plants and put it to the side. Then, to top dress, I got another bucket and put some of my homemade soil in it. Then I added about 1/3 of a cup of my all-purpose fertilizer, mixed the 2 together, and then took the fertilized soil and placed it around the base of my vines and watered it in. Next, I put the mulch back around the vines. I did the same thing with this single vine that I had growing, top dressing, then watering and remulching. At this point, the vines were now in cruise control. Oftentimes, your plants will tell you when they need a little bit more nutrition. You may notice it in the color of the leaves. So when they're really healthy and doing really well, they'll have a nice dark green color. But as they start to lose a little nutrition, get a little more hungry, that color of green will start to get a little more faded and then start to potentially even turn a little bit yellow. So what we want to do is make sure that we can provide them with food to continually grow well. If you see your plants starting to get a little pale yellow, it's a good idea to give them a top dressing of some fertilizer. And what you want to do is in the future, try to actually see it when it's first starting to happen, or try to notice right before the plants get super hungry. If you can get out there and give them a top dressing of food before they actually even need it or are showing signs of it, that's ideal. What you don't want to do though is go out and give your plants a top dressing of a fertilizer that is too high in nitrogen. Your best bet is to use an all-purpose balanced fertilizer, because if we give our plants a fertilizer that's super high in nitrogen, what's going to happen is the plant's going to focus mainly on the production of those leaves and grow big, healthy, beautiful leaves, but it's not going to really focus on the production of the tubers. That's what we want. We're growing these sweet potatoes for the potato, so we want to make sure that we're top dressing with a fertilizer that's balanced. 5 weeks later, the vines showed signs of slowing up, so again, I wanted to add a top dressing of fertilized soil. I followed the same process as before, then watered the plant in and covered the soil back up with some mulch. Let's jump over to the live version of me harvesting the sweet potatoes. Now we're on to the best part, the harvesting. Most sweet potato varieties are ready to eat in about 90 to 150 days, but if you live in an area like me that has a frost, then you could start to harvest your sweet potatoes as soon as the leaves start to yellow. If you can though, the longer you keep the plant in, the better. The longer it's in the ground, the bigger your yield will be and the higher the vitamin content will be of the sweet potatoes. It's late November and my sweet potato vines should have died back already because we have had a number of hard frosts. But what I did was I brought this inside into my greenhouse on the really cold nights because I wanted this thing to grow just a little bit longer. When a hard frost does hit them and the vines turn black, you want to get out there and harvest the tubers as soon as possible because when this happens, the tubers in the ground will start to rot quickly. Now, let's get to the actual harvesting, see what kind of potatoes we've gotten here. I'm just gonna take this bucket and bring it over to this cardboard right here. I'm gonna remove the mulch first. Got this wood chip mulch on here. So wood chip mulch works fine, leaf mulch, anything to just keep that moisture in there. You can see our homemade soil in there. Then I'm just gonna pull this one out. Pretty good sign. Pull the other one out. Then we're gonna flip this bucket over, see what we got. The moment of truth. Let's see what we got in here. See some roots down there? Let's break in to see if we find some nice sweet potatoes. Oh, this is looking good so far. I like what we see here. Pull a little more off the side. Oh yeah, look at this. Oh my gosh, there's way more in here than I even expected. Fantastic, let's just see. These little small ones are gonna be great eating too. So this variety is supposed to stay smaller like this, the Covington, as opposed to the Georgia Jet that I've done in the past where it's just some absolute just monster potatoes. Nice harvest from just one bucket, and they're still coming. There it is, absolutely beautiful. We will compost this soil and then reuse it again in the future. But I gotta say, I'm impressed with how many sweet potatoes we got from just that small bucket. One bucket harvested. Now this is the one where I only planted one vine in here, one sweet potato slip. What I'm gonna try to do with this one is flip it upside down, just like this, and try to keep the sweet potatoes attached to the vine. Loosen the sides up. There we go. Still got the Covington variety right on there. And let's see if we could pull these away while keeping them attached to the vine a little bit. There, that's what we like to see. That's what we like to see. It's so fun digging potatoes. They're one of the funnest things to harvest because you never know what you're gonna get. So it's like all kind of a mystery until you start to dig. Let's see if we can keep some of them attached right to the vine, just like that. Check it out. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely incredible. Yeah, look how many sweet potatoes came off this one plant. This one kind of fell off on its own. Nice sweet potato though. We'll lay that off to the side. These ones, look at that. Just beautiful. It's gonna be some great food. I'm gonna line all these up and just lay them on the tarp. Give them about a couple hours to dry off in the sun here. So not too bad of a harvest for only only 3 plants in just 2 5-gallon buckets. That's some good food, and we're gonna be able to get some sweet potato slips for next year from these right here. And I just wanna crack one open just to see the color a bit. Let's crack this one open and see what we got. Ooh, that's a nice orange flesh. I can't wait for these to dry out and cure so we can start eating them. After we harvest the potatoes, if we were to just cook them up, they wouldn't have that sweet, delicious flavor. They need to be cured. The curing process does a few things. First, it converts the starches to sugar that gives the sweet potatoes that sweet flavor. It also helps with any bruises that might have happened when we were harvesting. So it helps with those. The third thing it does is it makes it so that our sweet potatoes can last in storage for a longer period of time, and it really lessens the chances of any diseases to come in during the storage process. So we need to make sure we cure these potatoes. The first thing we're going to do is set them out in the sun like this for a few hours. We need to make sure that we do not wash the sweet potatoes before they're cured. After your tubers have sat in the sun for a few hours and dried out, and if it's not a sunny day, you don't have to do this, it's just a good idea. What we want to do is take our sweet potatoes and then bring them to a well-ventilated area where it's about 85 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit and keep them there for about 10 days. That will finish the curing process. I like putting them in crates like this because it makes sure that we have a good amount of airflow and ventilation so we don't get any fungal or any kind of diseases brewing up in here. So after the potatoes are finished curing, like I mentioned, they'll take about 10 days. Then you'll be able to store your sweet potatoes in a location about, say, 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and they'll last for several months like that. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I love making these videos, the container gardening ones, because I feel like it's empowering for a lot of people. Oftentimes people will say, oh, I can't plant that. I don't have enough space. But there's not really a huge excuse if you can grow in containers. Even if you have a small patio area, you could still get some sweet potatoes planted in containers, trellis them maybe along the railing or something, let them grow up along the side, and then you could be growing some of your own food right outside your door. I find that to be just empowering. When we could take back control of our own health, that allows us to get a little bit more control of our own lives. When we can actually take hand in the food that we're eating, we could follow it along for all of it. It gives us just a more appreciation, I think, for the food, and it also lets us know that this is real, healthy, organic, natural food. Sometimes we can get stuff from the food store, it says organic on it, but we're not really sure if it's organic, and they're always changing what the word organic means. They're always adding new sprays and stuff, so when we do it ourselves, there's just a good feeling knowing that it's safe, and I don't know, it's just fun watching a plant grow from nothing, or even taking a dead looking potato, growing a slip from it, taking that slip, planting it in the ground, watching it grow the whole year, and then getting a bunch of potatoes from it. It almost feels like a cheat code to be able to take one potato and turn it into so many more, and then take those and turn them into even more. It's one of the few things in life that feels worth it, but also feels like free. I mean, you get so much back from just making a small investment. We hope you guys take the time to get some of these things planted, because there's nothing like eating your own fresh stuff at home. The garden is looking beautiful. It was the perfect day yesterday to get my tomatoes in. So I got all my tomatoes planted. Things are looking really nice. We got a lot of them tied to the strings, and we're hoping for some beautiful weather into this week and the next week where the tomatoes can just explode into growth. In about a week or two also, I'll start planting my sweet potatoes for this year so I can be getting some massive harvests come fall. It's all about investing in the spring to get big harvests in summer and fall. But we got to make sure that when those harvests start to come in the summer, that we're not just thinking now and what we're harvesting, that we're thinking in the future. What's the next season? What can we plant now to then give us that harvest in the future? Gardening is like this whole thing of like delayed gratification. You have to kind of put in the work now, then you get to reap the benefits of it later. But it's really cool because if you can not just plant annuals, but plant perennials too, and you could grow perennials in containers, then not only are you investing now for the next season, but you're investing now for the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 or 10 years. I've got some cherry trees that I put in over 10 years ago, and they're loaded with fruit. Every year they get better with very little work. So even though this video is about growing some annuals like sweet potatoes, well, actually maybe they aren't even annuals because they're tropical, but maybe they are, I'm not sure. If you're watching this just about growing annuals, because that's what the video is about, try not to get stuck in that annual mindset. Try to break out of it and get to the perennial mindset, where we're thinking 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. That's what will really pay off for you in the future, and that's where the true value comes from. I wanted to send a thank you to one of our new channel members, Julie Mitchell. Thanks for being a part of Team Grow. Thanks for having your hand in everything we're doing out here. The apples are getting larger. We're spraying them with the Surround Kaolin Clay to keep the plum curculio off. The brassicas have exploded in growth. It feels like every 3 or 4 days they're doubling in size. I've got some really cool experiments going on, so make sure you guys hit the subscribe button to follow along for this year and next year and every year after that, because just like growing a garden, we're always trying to invest in what we're doing so that 3, 4, 5 years down the road, things are just incredible. Because just like our garden, we think perennial mindset. We're thinking for the videos too, perennial mindset, and trying to give you guys as much value as possible. Next video after this one, I'm going to be kind of doing a little bit more of a tour where I'm going to show you everything that's growing in detail to give you the full scope of how things are growing at this property. And then maybe in a few weeks, I'll bring you to the newer property too, the new homestead, where we have made a lot of changes, and there I can already see the vision of the future coming together. It looks a little bare right now, but you know, the vision of the harvest is what excites me, what motivates me to keep going, and just, it gives me something to really work towards. I had a blast though, and we hope that you got true value out of this video, and we hope you try your hands at growing things in containers. Even if you have space to plant things in the ground, some things grow really well in containers too, like potatoes, peppers, eggplants. Sometimes I plant my sweet potatoes and my peppers in containers a lot more than I do just in my raised beds, because I feel like, to be honest, that's like the best way to grow them. I know I'm just rambling a little bit, but these kinds of videos I never want to close off because it's the spring. I've been looking forward to this for so long, and I'm very thankful for you guys for watching these videos. And then it's not just about, we don't just want you to watch them, we want you to take action, to use some of the stuff we share with you, to get out, to get planted, to grow your garden, so you could experience the incredible feeling of growing some of your own food. I also want to mention to check out the community over at teamgrow.us, where we have over 1,000 growers that have come together, that are working together, that are sharing their posts, sharing things they learned, and I'm sharing too, so we could all learn and we could all grow a better future together. We'll catch you guys in another one real soon. We out.